Hey everyone, welcome back to our series on the Presidential Taskforce Report on religious organizations in Kenya. If you're just joining us, we've been breaking down this very important document chapter by chapter to help you as a ministry leader understand the legal and governance framework that affects your work in Kenya. Now remember, these videos are very high-level surveys of the report. But if you'd like to dive deeper, just reach out to me and I will send you the full report on email. Now, today's video is something you won't want to miss. We are diving into the key recommendations from the task force. These are not just suggestions. They are actionable steps that could reshape how churches and ministries operate in Kenya. So, grab your notebook and your pen and let's get started. The first recommendation is all about enhancing regulations of churches and ministries in Kenya. Now, this might sound like a lot of legal talk, but let's break it down. The task force is essentially saying ministries need to be better monitored to prevent abuse and exploitation. This is not just theory. Let's talk specifics. Remember the case of Pastor Paul Mackenzie from Kilifi? I think it was Kilifi or Malindi. His actions led to the death of over 400 people, including children. Now, this tragic event was a stark reminder of what can happen when there is a lack of oversight in churches. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday about oversight. And it's something that maybe in the future we need to talk about more seriously. Who needs to do the oversight on churches in Kenya? But that's a different topic for a different day. Now, the government does not want to see another Shakahola massacre, and neither should we as ministers. Now, this recommendation is about protecting our communities from such extreme cases by ensuring that churches and ministries are held to a very high standard. That you can't just wake up in the morning and say, God is calling me, and just go and start something under a tree or whatever. And I'm not saying that starting a church under a tree is a bad thing, but you know what I'm saying. So that's the first thing. The second thing that the task force recommends is mandatory registration and annual reporting for all churches and ministries. And to some of us, this might sound so tedious and hectic, but this is not just bureaucracy. It's about transparency and accountability. If we look at the past, there have been cases where ministries operated under the radar only for the public to find out later that funds were being mismanaged by the leadership within those ministries. They thought that they were signing up for ministry, but then later on down the road, they find out that the money was not only going to ministry, but to other things. And not only mismanagement of funds, but also mistreatment of the people that were in that ministry. For example, when you ask the leaders where the money is going, then they become really harsh with you. One example is the case of Prophet David Owuor. I think most of you know who he is, who has been accused of manipulating his followers and living a lavish lifestyle at their expense. Now, with mandatory registration, it becomes harder for such exploitation to go unnoticed because there'll be more than one eyeball on this situation. Now, I want you to hear me saying this. I'm not saying that Prophet Owuor is not registered. I'm just giving an example. So that's number two. Number three, the task force is recommending the need for educating and training for pastors and church leaders. This is not about undermining anyone's calling. It's about equipping leaders with the tools they need to guide their congregations effectively. So just because we say that you need training doesn't mean that you're stupid. It means that you need to be equipped. Now think about it this way. We would not trust a doctor who hasn't been properly trained. So why should it be any different for pastors and church leaders? Education can really prevent the spread of harmful ideologies and ensure that leaders are well versed in ethical governance. Now, we have seen the devastating effect when leaders like those involved in the Kanungu cult massacre in Uganda misuse their influence. Now, proper training can help prevent such tragedies in the future. And then finally, number 4, the task force is emphasizing financial accountability and transparency. This recommendation is particularly important because, as we have seen in the news, financial misconduct has been a recurring issue among ministry leaders. Now, do you remember Bishop Gilbert Dare, who was involved in a scandal where he allegedly sold miracle babies? And he sold these miracle babies to very desperate families. Now, such abuses are clear violation of trust, and the task force recommendation aims to ensure that ministries and churches handle their finances with a lot of integrity. By implementing strict financial regulations, we can prevent leaders from taking advantage of their followers and ensure that donations are used for their intended purposes, whether that's community outreach, ministry work, or just the everyday running of your church and the administration of the church. So there you have it. 4 key recommendations from the task force that could significantly impact how your church or ministry operates in Kenya. Each of these points is not just about regulation. It's about safeguarding the integrity of our ministries and protecting the people that we serve. So are you a pastor or a leader of a small ministry? In my next video, I'm going to get into how these reforms might impact your ministry. I will talk about what it means to adapt to these changes without really losing sight of your mission. Now, make sure to tune in because this could be a game changer for the way that we do ministry in Kenya going forward. So make sure you subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you'll be the first one to know when the next video is up. Let's keep this conversation going and work together to strengthen our ministries and churches. Thank you for watching, and God bless you as you lead your ministry with wisdom and integrity.